Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, Office in the Cloud. Today's webinar is part of the four-part series called The Modern Office, where we are diving deep into the new technologies and tools offices are deploying to maximize productivity across the entire business. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join us today. There are a couple of housekeeping items we'd like to mention. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please submit them through the GoToWebinar question box. We'll be answering questions throughout the presentation and following up afterwards to answer any additional. Before we begin, we wanted to share a brief background on the Socius and Rosebud partnership. Socius is a strategic business consulting partner that provides comprehensive business management solutions that help companies leverage technology to accelerate their growth and profitability and compete more successfully in today's economy. Rosebud Technologies provides the intellectual capital for customers to align technology with their business objectives. Rosebud's role is to be a proactive member of the client team, providing technology capability for the business and focusing on building and sustaining a client-centric relationship. Through our partnership, Socius and Rosebud offer a complete connected technology solution, enabling your ERP, CRM, and Office all to work as one, maximizing productivity across sales, marketing, operations, finance, and IT. So at this point, Greg, I believe we're ready to transition the presentation over to you.
Great. Thank you very much. And we are very excited to be here this morning and this afternoon to talk with you guys about the modern workplace and Office 365, Microsoft's platform product for the cloud. For the first time ever in the U.S. job history, there are 4 generations of people working within organizations. These people represent a very dynamic workforce and a very dynamic workplace, whereby the traditional business that we've known for many years as a brick and mortar or a stand-up business did not have to go very far, perhaps, to find new opportunities or to grow their business. But such as the economy is today and the way that technology has modified that business world, the workplace must catch up and continue to become a dynamic place to conduct business, to work with business partners, to work with colleagues, and to find new areas of revenue, traditionally beyond the borders that we've come to know. In addition to that, there's been a device explosion. Many of you may have multiple devices there on your desk or in your pockets. That represent a very connected world. The fact that you have a device that may in fact connect to your workplace, the fact that you have a device that perhaps your employer has given to you to conduct your business. Both of those devices represent mechanisms for you to connect in and to access information, conduct your business, and to be productive just about wherever you are. The problem typically is the back office, the technology that's inside of the actual business. Does it allow you to do everything that you need to do? So while we have these devices that create a very connected environment for us, oftentimes the laggards in this technology spectrum may in fact be the business itself. In addition to that, there are many things today that are gathering information about us. You probably have realized if you've gone online to buy a book or maybe some clothes, that online retailer may be suggesting things to you, or perhaps they're suggesting things to you that you looked at in the past, didn't buy, but that might be on sale. Those all represent analytics. And everywhere we go, data is being collected about all sorts of things. Inside of a business, certainly with your ERP or your accounting software, your sales teams with perhaps Microsoft CRM Online, we can now analyze lots and lots of information very easily because of the benefit of this modern workplace, because of the benefits that modern technology has provided. And the neat thing about it is this technology is not that expensive. It is not typically the technology that has been reserved for the very few enterprise-size, multi-thousand-person, multinational companies. An organization with less than 20 people now have access to the very same technology that the large enterprise businesses of the world have access to. When we look at the modern workplace, we also have to consider compliance and controls. We live in an environment now, and you see headlines just about every other week, where there's a business that is in trouble, where their technology has been compromised. So how do we maintain compliance with perhaps regulatory agencies that are overseeing our businesses, financial institutions, legal obligations? How do we maintain compliance while still creating strict controls without breaking our budgets? These types of issues tend to represent a large part of a non-revenue generating part of a business's budget. How can we take the modern workplace, match it up with a modern business, and do so in a way that does not force the business to struggle to conduct their business at large? So with that, cloud productivity comes to play. Microsoft's cloud platform, Office 365, represents a mechanism and a manner in which businesses can begin to conduct their affairs much more efficiently from any place, with any device that their folks may be using it, or their customers or business partners or vendors. This is all done in an enterprise-grade cloud. And what does this mean? Sounds like a great term, but what does it really mean? This means that typically a small business, and we've supported these businesses for almost 20 years, their server was at the end of the hall in some dusty closet, or was under somebody's desk that got bumped when the cleaning people came in with the vacuum, which means it was also probably on carpeting, which isn't recommended for electronics. This means that Microsoft has your data, your technology now in a cloud environment that none of us even collectively probably could afford to spend the money on to host our environment in. It's very strict controls, very strict redundancy, geographic redundancy. So if an environment has an issue, it replicates and continues to run in a different area of the country. These are things that were very distant obstacles and very distant things that a small business or even a mid-sized business could attain without, again, breaking their budget. It also comprises very familiar and easy tools that we can use. So it is built on top of Office. A little later on in this presentation, we're going to walk through a full demonstration of what these tools employ. And this would include Office on your desktop. It would include Office in the cloud, in the browser. It includes Office on your tablet or your smartphone. So very familiar, very easy. They're bringing the tools to whatever device or whatever place you're located. You'll have access to them. And it's not something new to learn. They're all the same productivity tools that you've come to know and love over the last couple of years or decades. So it's essential that these services continue to provide productivity for us. It also is essential that they provide flexibility and choice. Gone are the days of having to choose a device for the type of work you wanted to conduct. Those commercials of old between I'm a Mac or I'm a PC doesn't matter anymore. Whatever you've got, whatever platform you're on, wherever you are today, you will be able to use these services. And whatever device you buy tomorrow at the store, even though next week it'll probably be outdated for how fast these things change, don't fret. Those devices will still be able to work with all of these services, which is a very different place than that we've been traditionally. I like this particular slide here because while we are talking about services from Microsoft, you will really struggle, and if anyone does find one, let me know, you will struggle to find any specific product mentioned. And I really want to call attention to that because it does ring true with the philosophical change that we've seen Microsoft take over the last, probably 12 to 24 months as these cloud technologies have evolved and matured. Microsoft has ceased really talking about product, and they're really focused on solutions and services. So as you look across the bottom of this slide, just make a note of some of these things that either you're not sure what they are, or perhaps you are aware of what the service is, but it's one that has eluded you to date in terms of maybe cost or your infrastructure may not be ready for it. Just please make a note of these things because it covers a lot of ground. If we look left to right, We're talking about a way that people can interact with their data. Just like we are today, having a multimedia high-definition presentation, the ability to use touch devices and inking on those devices. If we move across, enterprise social is becoming a very big part of businesses today, and we will show that here a little later on. And in addition, the idea of ad hoc reporting. Who could ever dream of being able to use natural language query to look at their data and ask questions of it using sentences, not weird select where clauses in some type of obscure query language that most business executives are not aware of. And finally, if you look at the final column, making sure that your data is protected and making sure that what you do doesn't put you at risk. I like to call out two things here in terms of the DLP. While I don't like acronyms, this one stands for data loss prevention. This very simple yet very hard to acquire tool or service, if you had, say, your mail hosted inside your business, data loss prevention is that simple service or policy that says, you know, if it looks like a social security number or if it looks like a credit card number, don't let the email leave my business. Don't put me at risk to be sued. In addition, rights management, the ability to send a document, to send an email that has a literal life to it. And you can put parameters where that document can't be printed, can't be copied, can't be forwarded, can't be saved, and in 5 days it will cease to exist in the recipient's mailbox. Some really, really slick capabilities, again, for dollars per day, per month, to acquire and have them very, very quickly. So this is a very exciting technology for me. I'm a technology guy, so talking about this stuff and how the technology can really make an impact in the business is very, very cool to see. Okay, so real quick, Office 365, very important to remember, is Office. So please don't walk away thinking that Office 365 means Word and Excel and PowerPoint only in the browser or only on my tablet. Not the case. It does include support for Office on your desktop, both PC and Mac. In addition, you will have Office in the browser, so you have the best of both worlds. And you can see how that would plug right into the rest of these services that we've already covered in some detail previously in this presentation. So you're going to have all these services there in blue, plus the tight integration with the Office products that you've been using for years now. So nothing new to learn. We're adding capabilities for these products that you've already been using. Okay, so just real quick, when you are looking at Office, inside of Office 365, there's a very unique licensing capability here that doesn't exist anywhere else. If some of you are aware of software assurance, I am not talking about this. I'm talking about the ability to have Office 2013 Professional Plus and or Mac Office 2011, soon to be Mac Office 2016 later this year, and Office 2016 Professional Plus later this year for PCs. You can deploy that version of Office or a combination of the two on up to 5 devices. So if you have a Mac, if you've got a desktop PC, if you have a Surface Pro 3 laptop, you can install Mac Office on the Mac and PC Office on the 2 PC products. And you still have 2 more to install. Very, very attractive licensing for Office alone. Plus the fact that you also will have Office in the cloud. And we will show that here in just a few minutes. But the idea is, say you're at a business center in a hotel, or you're at a kiosk at a conference across the country, or maybe you're visiting family and friends for the upcoming holiday weekend, and you just got to make an edit to a document and get it back into the office so others can see it. You will have that capability from any device anywhere in the world as long as it's internet connected, and you'll be able to edit that document in Word, Excel, or PowerPoint natively in the browser. Very, very cool stuff. In addition, all of these things are made to work together, and you don't have to have any server infrastructure set up to support them. Microsoft is managing all of this on the back end. There's a great website, if you want to make a note of it. It's called trustoffice365.com, and it will cover all of the rules, regulations, and compliances that Microsoft is adhering to because they are a global company. So they're covering every aspect of data center security metrics and technologies required to operate in a global economy. and Microsoft is managing it. You no longer necessarily have to rely on your managed service provider or your internal IT help desk to fix things. While they're still very useful and you need them, they and you are being backed up by the folks who actually wrote the software. Microsoft has it, they own it, they will manage it for you. If you should ask them for any help, any questions about any of these things at all, they will help you with that, and they will help you keep control of your data. You own your data, they own the platform that it resides on. Okay, so with that, we are going to go over and begin to demonstrate some of these things, but I'm just going to take a quick look here, see if any particular questions. That we will have an opportunity later on in our demonstration to talk about any questions that you may have. So with that, if you don't mind, I'm going to break out of the presentation. Let me minimize this. And let me start here with a couple of things as we get into the demonstration. Now, we are using a live Office 365 tenant. Tenant is a key word to realize. Your subscription to Office 365 does exist in a multi-tenant environment. Picture an apartment building with multiple apartments in it. Everybody has their own lock and key to their own apartment, but you are part of a bigger building with multiple people in there, and they're all tenants. So it's a very similar analogy for where your business would reside inside of Office 365. So my tenant here, I have Outlook. And I want to point out very specifically that this is Outlook on my desktop. So again, as I mentioned, I want to stress to you that Office in the cloud, while we're using cloud services, I'm using Outlook. This happens to be 2013. It might look a little different than the Outlook you have on your desktop if it's older. But this is Outlook 2013, and it is connected. You can see down here in the lower right-hand corner, it says, where'd my mouse go? There it is, connected to Microsoft Exchange. So I have a live internet connection to my tenant up in the cloud at Office 365. So here I am, I'm going to conduct my work today, and I have two views. So this is Outlook here basically on the left, and this is a product called Link. This is my instant messaging and voice product. And you can see that I've got some coloring here, green and yellow. Let me show you what this actually means. I'm going to find an email from this gentleman, Julian Isla, and here it is in Outlook. And notice that this Link product, the idea of this presence, that somebody is actually available in my organization, and for that matter, Julian could be anywhere in the world as long as he has an internet connection. And here I have Julian that I see he sent me an email, but it's telling me that Julian also is available to chat. So I am going to do just that. I'm going to open up a instant messaging window, and I'm going to say, hey, Julian, are you there? Of course, I know he is, but let's make sure he's not looking at the solitaire screen. And you'll notice here very quickly that, well, know that Julian is now typing a message back to me. And so many of you may have already been using instant messaging for quite some time because it's not a new technology. But the neat thing about this is it is a product and a solution included with Office 365. It includes presence. So some of us might have a voice over IP phone system that has included presence information. Is somebody at their desk? Are they in a meeting? Well, this, in fact, Link has those capabilities as well. What's neat about this, too, is Link is going to read from my calendar. So not only do I know that Julian is online and connected to the internet and available to chat via Link, I also know that Julian is not in a meeting, he's not on a phone call, and he otherwise is not set to do not disturb. So if Julian was in a meeting and it was on his Outlook calendar, Link would automatically update and tell me that Julian's in a meeting. It doesn't tell me who he's meeting with or anything of that kind, but it does indicate to me that I probably don't want to disturb him because he's in a meeting or he's on a call. So I also can start, you can see here the phone icon. I could start a phone call with him. I could do video sharing with him if I have a webcam on my computer. I can do screen sharing. I'm going to show you a little bit about the screen sharing options. I have multiple monitors on my computer, so it's giving me the option I can share multiple monitors with Julian. If I had a particular program open up on my computer, I could just share out that one single program in case I don't want, maybe I had confidential information on the screen. I didn't want to expose that information to my audience. I would just simply share a program. I could upload a PowerPoint or share a PowerPoint slide deck. We could have a whiteboard, so we can do drawings and other capabilities, or drop in pictures. If we use this a lot with architectural firms, we'll drop in a schematic of an office space, and they will begin to edit the document right here inside of Link. We can do polls or surveys, and finally just a regular Q&A as part of this. OneNote we can take notes with. And also we can have attachments available for the meeting should we be making documents available for folks who are joining the meeting to download them. And this last button here is simply just to add other people to the meeting. Okay, so let's stop doing the link meeting here. And actually I'm going to jump over to my social enterprise. I mentioned that as part of the presentation a moment ago. But this is a social environment, and if you're struggling with the term social network or social enterprise, think LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. Think of those types of platforms where you might have read or might be aware that when you put your information inside of those social networks, you give up ownership to them. In this environment, on the social network that Microsoft provides to me as part of Office 365, I own the data. I can rest assured that any data I put up in this environment is now being housed and secured inside of Microsoft data centers. They don't mine it to advertise to me. They don't share it for marketing revenue. And if I should say, you know what, I'm done, get rid of my stuff, Microsoft will purge it. Not only that, my data is at rest is encrypted and secure. So very, very enterprise-grade quality stuff here, but in terms of the social network, just want to call out those underlying layers that, again, most small and mid-sized companies would never be able to afford, but also would also have the same concerns. I want to keep my conversations private. I don't want Facebook or others knowing what I'm talking about and advertising to me about it. So here's my social network, and it probably does look a lot like some some social networks that you might be part of. A couple things just to point your attention to as we look at this. In the middle column here is my homepage feed. So you notice here that Spencer Lowe has written a message to the Yammer 101 group, which I am a member of. I'm also a member of the resellers group. If you look further down here, I'm also a member of the sales operations group. So even though I'm members of these groups, I don't need to go into those groups to find the information. The social platform is bringing them to me in my news feed, essentially, so I can see what's there. Of course, I can like, I can reply, I can share these things with other groups, and there may be more things I might want to do with them here in terms of adding topics or bookmarking this particular conversation so I can get back to it easily later. In addition, you see this little pop-up down here in the lower right. These represent the people inside my organization that are a part of this social network. Of course, the little empty circles here on the right indicate that those folks are not available, but if I scroll up, of course, Julian is. Now, I could have a conversation here with Julian, but I do want to point out that this is a different conversation platform than Link. So these are not quite yet integrated, but they will be very soon. My guess is, if you've also been reading any headlines, Skype for Business is coming out, and the Link product that I described earlier is going to be moving to the Skype platform. That platform is also going to include regular old phone line support built into the service, just like many of you that are using Skype have enjoyed for years. And I believe at some point thereafter, this capability inside of this social network will also comprise that Skype platform. Okay, so actually what I want to do is just show you a couple of things here also on the screen. On the left-hand side, I have groups. And these are really just that. These are buckets or categories of information that I know if I go to sales operations, I'm probably not going to find anything about, oh, I don't know, I'm not going to find anything about marketing. I might find stuff about how our sales are performing. If I go to human resources, I'm probably not going to see a technology help desk chatter. I'm going to see things that are very relevant to human resources. It's important to realize that inside the social network, I have the ability to create multiple types of networks. The two of those being an internal network or an external network. So we've talked about two definitions here, a network and a group. One way to think about this is a network would represent a high level or a broad collection of topics and or people that are related. Groups would provide differentiation between those subtopics within the network. One example I've come up with is, think about if you created a network of cars, and inside that network you have groups for a group for SUVs, a group for trucks, a group for sedans, a group for coupes, etc. So that's the best way I can kind of describe how these come together. What's really important to realize here is I can actually create an external network to include people outside of my business for free. So you can have a group that you maybe have a strategic business partner, and you both have your own separate infrastructure, your own separate technologies, but you want a secure, private way to have very quick, easy conversations without having to trade emails back and forth and all that kind of stuff. Well, this social network product will allow you to do that, and private. So you can keep it not public, you can keep it private, and only those folks who are invited are able to get added to the group. Okay, so let's close that, and I'm going to actually add a comment here, and just for the sake of typing something wrong and for time, I'm just going to copy and paste a bit of my commentary here for this post, and I'm going to say Julian. And notice it's going to pop out and show me Julian's name. This actually, just like it would in other social platforms, it's going to call out specifically to Julian. If he's not necessarily paying attention to this conversation, it's actually going to send him an email and notify them, hey, you were mentioned in a conversation in the social network. Is heading up this project, so contact him with questions. Now, much like other social networks, I can add topics. So I might add a topic of training, and this would help me to search for any conversation that has to do with training. I could also find websites. Let me just open up real quick the Office 365 website, and I'm going to copy the URL. Oh, let's see, copy that. Let's go back here to this. I'm going to add a URL in here. And what's going to happen is it's actually going to find that this actually is a website, and it's going to find the title of the website if there were any sort of thumbnail pictures, and it's got the first couple of lines of summary of the website here. So very easy to drop things in. Included, you could drop in, say, videos from YouTube or Vimeo or other sources right in line with this conversation. So if there was a nice video that you wanted to share with the team, you could do that very easily within this environment. Okay, so we've done this. Let me go ahead and post this here. That message will be posted. There we go. It went out to all company and Julian, so Julian's specifically going to be mentioned. And people now can join the conversation and reply back. Now I'm going to switch gears here. I'm going to jump over to my cloud storage. So these are my documents and files that I've stored up in the cloud. So not only are they protected, but I can, again, get access to them from anywhere. But what I want to do is I want to take this Marketing Ideas OneNote notebook. I don't know how many of you have actually used OneNote. Great tool, great product as part of Office. And I want to share this with somebody. So again, I'm going to pick on my friend Julian. And I'm going to type Julian's name in here. And of course, the system knows who Julian is, so finds them very quickly. I can pop them in. I can tell what kind of permissions I want to give to them. I want to let them edit the file. I could add a message here. Here is the marketing book I mentioned earlier. And I'm going to require them to sign in because I do want to make sure that only those people who have access to this must sign in. And that way, if someone gets a link or has access to it, I've protected my work even that much more. So I'm going to go ahead and share this. Now, Julian, of course, is going to get an email. An email message was sent out to Julian saying, hey, I've shared this notebook with you. So let's go ahead and open this up. And notice that it's going to open up OneNote Online. This is one of those Office products that is going to be included with your Office 365 subscription. And I've got this file now in OneNote. Not only that, but I'll see here in just a minute. Oh, see, I got copied on the email that I sent. Let me close that. I noticed here in the top right that Julian Isla is also in the notebook. So we are going to be modifying this thing together. And as you can see here, I just flipped over to two different pages. One of them was a little plain. This one, in fact, has a little bit more content and is laid out a little differently. But you should see here that Julian will begin to edit this file. So let's go see here. I'm going to add attendees are Julian, Karen. And so we've seen, oh, yep, so regular meeting of Rosebud Technologies, called to order 2 p.m. in Kennesaw. So we're here in Kennesaw, Georgia, and that's today's date. So you can see how the two of us have actually worked on this together. And if I want to see exactly who was doing what, I can click on Show Authors. And I can see where Julian and I have collaborated on this file together. But, I might want to do something a little different. I actually want to look at this file in OneNote on my desktop. So I'm going to pull this file into OneNote. So stick with me here. I've transitioned from the browser to OneNote on my desktop. Oh, and Julian added a little image here down here for us to look at. And that's a little screenshot. So a nice additive here of OneNote where you can copy things in and move them around. In fact, I'm going to drop in a file. I have a marketing best practices document that I want to drop into this OneNote. And I'm just going to paste it here. It's going to ask me, do I want to paste the printout or just attach the file? I don't want to show the printout. I just want to put the file in there. So there's my file, and look at this. I can just double-click on it, open it up, and here's my PDF of Dynamic CRM Online Best Practices Review. So you can see very easily how powerful OneNote could be, and Julian is working in the browser. I'm working in OneNote on my desktop, and we're still able to work on these things together. Of course, you can see where here was Julian making this edit here. It tells me the day and time. Okay, there we go. So very, very powerful stuff, all supported by this cloud platform. Okay, so I'm done working on that with Julian. We've collaborated. Let me close the OneNote notebook. I'll come back to the browser. What I want to do is jump over to my intranet portal. Now, this is a product and a solution that Microsoft has had around for some time. It's called SharePoint. And this is really intended to be a mechanism for groups or teams of people, whether cross-functional or departmental groups, to work together. So for this case, I'm going to go into the sales and marketing site, and I'm going to have specific information about sales and marketing. Of course, I want to find some resellers here that we're working with. And I'm going to choose one in particular called Northwind. Let's let this open up here. There we go. So I have a site inside of a site, and I've organized data about this particular reseller. Of course, I've got my social network feed here. If I were to log into that, I would see what's going on there. I have some KPIs that have been presented to me here in SharePoint as well, a little summary of the company for those folks maybe on my side that don't know who Northwind is. We're providing that to them. And a document library. So a document library, for all intents and purposes, is a folder in the browser, you know, on a server somewhere in the world that I can organize information. Of course, you can see I've got PDF files, I have Word files, PowerPoint, Excel files, and there again some Word files. One of the things I like about this is I don't necessarily have to open up any of these files to show the contents. If I simply click on the dots here, I get some options. Of course, I can opt to edit it, share it, post it somewhere else, and do some other things. I got some other things I can do here in terms of downloading it, checking it out. Version history. If I were to make updates to this document, it would track version history. So in a business, you always want to have one version of the truth. And with this platform, I can share files with people in this environment. As they make updates to them, the files will track their changes. Their files will come back and ask them, what did you change? And it will provide me a history of the versions and iterations that we've gone through of that particular file. I can also check it out. So like I've shown the collaborative efforts that we've done around OneNote, I could actually check this file out to me so that anybody else who wants to see it can, but they're not going to be able to make edits to it while I have the document checked out to myself. Okay, so let me come back here. There's a great little utility here. I don't necessarily want to open up this file. Let's say this is a really, really big PowerPoint file, lots of graphics, lots of stuff going on in this PowerPoint. This actually is going to give me a preview of the PowerPoint slides right here in the browser, and I can step through those slides very quickly. In fact, if there were transitions, I would see those transitions in here as well. So really neat capability here in terms of SharePoint and document libraries. Now, I do want to open up this Excel file. So let's go ahead and open up this inventory report. And as OneNote did, likewise, I'm going to have Excel Online open up here in the browser. And this is just a very simple, typical spreadsheet, a couple of columns of data. It's one of the great, simple tools that Excel provides us with. But you know, I want to edit this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to edit this workbook. And initially here, I want to edit it in Excel Online. Now, this does a couple of things. Notice that I now have the ribbon across the top here. So any of you that have been using Excel, gosh, I believe it was 2007 and forward, Microsoft began to introduce the ribbon. There may be some grunts and moans out there about why did they change the File Edit View menu for me and introduce this ribbon thing. The ribbon actually came about because when people installed Office, millions of people selected the option that says, yes, I will join the customer improvement experience marketing thing. And what Microsoft was doing was collecting information on how people use the products, nothing specific to you, me, or the other person, but in aggregate, all of us together, how were we actually using these products? And to that end, they came up with the ribbon, and they tried to gather all the capabilities that people used most into these ribbon repositories. So yes, the file edit view menu has gone away, but that's all right. They've done a pretty good job of collecting those things that we use most inside the ribbon. But I really want to point out the fact that I am in the browser. And while I may not have all of the options available to me in Excel on my desktop, I do have a lot of them. And so almost full fidelity between the Excel product on my hard drive and the Excel product in the browser. Really, really cool stuff. Oh, and I see that Julian is in fact here. I've got an indication here that Julian is also editing the document. I see that Julian is creating tabs down here of my workbook, and I've got this text here that Julian has added here to the file as well. So I've got these multiple tabs, and you know what, I'm going to jump out of this. I want to show you how to use this in Excel itself. So I actually want to show you a little nugget of information that most folks aren't aware of with Excel 2013. But notice I've got these various tabs here. Oh, Julian's gone. Karen, I'm Karen. I am now the only person editing this file. But you know, I've got this. I can tab through this thing here in Excel. But what I want to do is I want to open it up in Excel. So right from the browser, I click a button, and now this file is going to open up in Excel on my desktop. So let's give this just a minute. Okay. So same thing. Tabs were created up in the browser, and they're here on my desktop. Here's the text from Julian. Actually, I'm going to use this column, so I'm going to delete that text. Let me show you something that a lot of people don't know about with Excel 2013. A lot of us know about series and autofill. That's been around for a long time. Let me introduce you to something called Magic Fill. So I'm going to type in color here in D1. And if you notice, I've got these columns, and over in this column here, I've got some text. This, in fact, includes the product information. So we've got the product size, the model number, what color, and how big is this. It happens to be washer and dryer machines. So this is a regular size washer and dryer. But it's white, and its model number is the M2550. Watch what happens here. Let's say I wanted to create a column that was separate from everything else. I wanted to pull out information that said, you know what, I just want to know what the color choices are. So watch what happens here. I'm going to type in white. I'm going to tab down and type in, start typing in green, and watch what happens. Excel is starting to say, wait a minute, I think this guy is picking up this text from that first column, and of course if I hit enter, it fills in all the rest of the fields for me. Now, this is just 19, 20 fields here, but imagine 1,000, 2,000. Excel can support lots and lots of rows and columns. I'll show you one other really neat way that this works. I'm going to pick out the model number. I've got the M2550. I got the M2400. Oh, and it fills in the rest of them for me. So I hope, if nothing else out of the webinar today, you guys can learn something new about Excel 2013. This is a really great and easy way that you can leverage Excel in a new and dynamic way. Okay, so I've got my Excel file and I'm done, but not quite yet. I like what I've done here. I want to save it. And normally, if I were to take a document or a file off of a server, or particularly off of a website, which is really where this came from, right? Remember, I was in SharePoint, which was in the web browser, and I brought it down to my desktop. Typically, I'd have to go save it and then upload the file later. But not the case here. Excel knows where this file came from. In fact, if I go to File, it tells me here's where that document actually exists. Now, I'm going to do this once. I'm going to click the Save button here in a second. But I want you to keep your eye on the green bar down here in the lower right, and you'll notice that when I hit Save, it actually is going to put that file back up into SharePoint for me. Let me click Save, but keep your eyes on the bar down here. Uploading to SharePoint. So that's all I needed to do. In fact, if I minimize this, yep, close that tab. Oop, let me go back. I need to open up that. I need to open up that site again. Pardon me. Let me go open up my SharePoint site where I had that file. Here was sales and marketing. Just want to show you that it actually does flow through to the browser. Go to resellers. And Northwind. Scroll down. Here's my inventory. I was updated about a minute ago by Karen. Of course, again, that's who I am. Let me click the button here, and I should get a preview of my Excel file just like I did with PowerPoint. And there's Karen's tab and Julian's tab. Okay, so it's got the same stuff in there. So really neat thing here, very connected between my desktop and the browser. And finally, here I am back into the browser, and I've got the color and the model fields that I added earlier. So let me conclude our webinar here by going out to OneDrive. Now, OneDrive for Business is the product that provides every person inside of a business that has Office 365 with cloud storage. So many of you may be using competing products. Two of them are Dropbox or Box.net, or maybe they changed to Box.com now. But OneDrive for Business is Microsoft's cloud storage for individuals. So as you are a member of an organization that has purchased Office 365, you would get, everybody in your organization would get a OneDrive for Business location for secure storage of files and folders. Many times in a business, folks have they have a server, and everybody in the organization has a home directory or user folder, and that's where their stuff goes because it's their business files that they use, but doesn't really belong in a departmental folder directory. So that's really what this is here. But as you can tell, I shared a file from OneDrive. I didn't tell you that in the beginning, but I shared a file from OneDrive with Julian. I could have shared the file with somebody on the internet, a business partner, not part of my organization, just like those competing products have. I will tell you the biggest difference between OneDrive for Business and the others. Not only will everybody get this capability included in your subscription to Office 365, not only is it enterprise grade and still protected and encrypted in transit and on disk like all the other services are, but everybody, currently, everybody would get 1 terabyte of storage. 1 terabyte. If you have an IT team or you have somebody who's supporting your environment, ask them how many terabytes of storage are available on your servers. It's probably close to 1 or maybe a multiple of 1 or 2 from there. So this is a whole lot of storage for folks. Not only that, it gets better. Later this year, that 1 terabyte file storage, it will be lifted to unlimited. There will be no limit to the amount of files or data you can store in OneDrive for Business. Again, no price increase, no subscription change. Microsoft simply introduces a new service or feature and you get it. Just like your cable company or your phone bill, you may not have buried the cable in your yard and you certainly don't know how the cable works from your TV out to where the cable company is, but if you pay your monthly bill, they continue to release new movies, they release new channels, and all sorts of stuff. The only difference is they might increase your bill. Microsoft's not going to do that on you. In fact, in a couple of years, Microsoft's been hard at cloud technologies like this for about 6 years. In that time, in fact, they've dropped their prices up to 25%. So there has not been a price increase, only price drops. So I'm going to wrap up the presentation part of this. Let me close out and get back into PowerPoint. And I actually do want to call your attention to one last thing here. This is PowerPoint 2013. Watch what happens when I click on the link here. You're going to see a very odd window. And if you're not a PowerPoint 2013 user, you don't know what this is. This is called Pilot Mode. And it gives me the opportunity to see the current slide I'm presenting, the slide that's next in the queue. But for the sake of this webinar, let me swap this around so you guys can see actually what you're intended to see. There we go. Okay. So we're going to conclude our demo and slide presentation for this webinar, but I would like to open it up to all of you, and we'll see what kind of questions we have out here. Okay, so I have a question from some folks about the difference between SharePoint and OneDrive. It's a great question. OneDrive is for the individual. So, and as you can see from the presentation, it is very structured like a file and folder list is in, say, Windows Explorer. SharePoint, while you can still, of course, you're storing files and folders in SharePoint, SharePoint is better used when perhaps you're having 2, 3, or more people involved on a project or collaborating, perhaps even cross-departmental people working or collaborating on a project. That's where SharePoint really shows its value. Plus, SharePoint has workflow. So if as say an expense report file gets submitted to a particular document library, workflow would take over and route that file around for approval. Vacation requests would be the same way. So SharePoint has some capabilities that OneDrive certainly does not. But I can understand the question. We get that quite often in terms of the differences between the two types of services. Let's see. The 1 terabyte of storage for OneDrive for Business does not include SharePoint. It's another great question. Would love to draw this on a big piece of paper for you, but the OneDrive for Business storage is per person. So every individual, whether it's 2 or 2,000, every person in that organization would have 1 terabyte of storage in OneDrive for Business. Now you go to SharePoint, SharePoint storage is treated a little differently. SharePoint storage is what's called pooled or shared. So as a tenant, Microsoft is going to get you started with 10 gigabytes of storage. Every person that you add to that tenant, right, so I'm with Rosebud, and as I add my staff to my Office 365 subscription, every person added adds 500 megabytes to the pool. So for every 2 people, I get another gigabyte. Now, in a large enough organization, that gets to be a pretty big number quickly. A lot of small organizations, that typically is not enough space to store a lot of files. So what Microsoft does allow is for you to add storage to SharePoint for 20 cents per gigabyte per month. So it is a recurring cost. It's 2 dimes for 1 gigabyte additional storage, and you can add as much of that as you want to. And I think also we typically open this up for folks to ask questions. If you'd like to use your your microphone or speakers there on your computer, we open it up for that as well.
Yeah, and just to remind everyone, you can submit your questions through the box, but you can also raise your hand. And when you raise your hand, we'll go ahead and unmute your line so that you can ask it directly if you prefer.
Great. One other question that we get from folks is, so is my data secure? I would encourage you, if that's a question or something you're thinking as you're looking at this stuff or considering a move to the cloud, again, I would encourage you to go look at the trustoffice365.com website. They are FINRA compliant. They are HIPAA compliant. They also include a business associates agreement. So for doctors' offices or other folks that would require that, one of the few cloud companies that also include the business associates agreement. They will talk about their last security audit, which happens quarterly. Only badged people have access to the data centers. So very, very secure environment for your data.
A couple more questions, Greg, here about mobile capabilities. How do I sync my phone with Outlook with my email in the cloud?
Right, and that's probably talking about if I send an email perhaps from my phone, does it show up in the Outlook sent items, say, maybe in their desktop? And certainly it does. The picture to have is your mailbox inside of Office 365 is the container where all of your mail resides. And of course, I'm talking about your inbox, contacts, your calendar, tasks, subfolders, or rules that you organize your mail in. All those things comprise the mailbox. Well, Outlook on your desktop or laptop, Outlook in the browser, Outlook on your, say, your iPad, or your iOS device, your Android device, those are all viewers into that container of your mailbox in Office 365. So if something should change with your mailbox Office 365, meaning a new message arrives, it automatically would pop up. So if you had your tablet, your smartphone, and your computer all lined up and Outlook was there, and someone sends you a message, all 3 of them would have the message appear nearly at the same time as the message arrived. And if you were to delete the message from one of those devices in a matter of moments, you'd see the message disappear from the others. So again, as I mentioned during the presentation, any device you have will work with these services. So Android, iOS, of course Windows, all of those devices, tablets and smartphones, are fully supported with Office 365.
Greg, it looks like that's all the questions that are coming in for now, but we will be staying on the line a couple more minutes for anyone having any additional questions. And the slide that he has up right now, that is our next webinar in this 4-part series, 5 things every IT manager should understand about today's Office in the cloud. So that'll be on May 7th from 1 to 2 Eastern. So we encourage you to jump on that call as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
And there are a couple of questions about the presentation being recorded. There is a follow-up email that will come out a couple of hours after today's presentation, and it will have a link to today's recording in case you would like to go back and share it with additional people at your company.